Hi, this is Alan from dmhauntedhouses.com. I wanted to do this video using my actual video equipment so we'd have a good picture and some lighting and some good sound, but all the batteries are dead, so you get a phone video. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about DMX lighting. That's the type of lighting used by bands and stage performances and DJs at weddings, things like that. And it's very useful for using in haunted attractions because you can do a whole lot with it. Now, DMX stands for digital multiplexing, which is not important at all. It just means that these lights have a special hookup on the back of them with an in and an out, and then you use a DMX cable that goes from some type of controller to the input of the light, and then it can receive signals and tell the light to do things like blink or become red or blue, depends on the capabilities of the lights. There's fog machines that run off of DMX and all kinds of effects. And then if you're using more than one, you plug another cable into the outside and you send it to the next light, and you can have a chain of them. You can think of DMX as a way to control lights just like you might control the audio from a mixing board. But instead of having a mixing board control the volume of the guitar and the bass and the drums and the singer, you have different channels that control different effects that these lights can do. For instance, here is a really inexpensive DMX mixing board that goes out a cable into the input of this DMX light. And by using these sliders, I can turn on the overall brightness, but I haven't told it what to do with that. So I could turn on the red light, so there we go, or I could turn on the green light, or the blue light, and this is a red, green, blue, white light, so I even have white. And by mixing them together, this red and blue would project purple. Red and green would make yellow, and so on. So you got all these different colors you can make. And I like red, green, blue, white lights because the white can be used for lightning effects. Otherwise you'd have to like turn on all these lights and you kind of get a white, but it's always got kind of a hazy mix around it because these lights aren't perfect. So this is called an RGBW light, red, green, blue, and white. Now some DMX lights can actually do something by themselves. This one has a control panel on the back with a very simple menu system, and it has like these presets. So I can set a value and produce a red light, or a green, or a blue, or yellow, different combinations just by going through this menu. So if I was going to put this in a haunted house, I don't actually need a light mixing board. I could just get one of these lights, program it to the right color, and then set my scene lighting that way. And there are other features. It has patterns it will do, it bounces different colors, it has strobe effects. Mostly stuff you'd want to use if you were doing things like a music DJ or a rock band, things like that. But it will do colors, and it even has a mode where I can go in and set the individual levels of red, green, blue, and white, just like I did with the sliders on the mixing board, and create the exact intensity level and color mixture I want. So instead of using just colored light bulbs and things like that, these little lights are very, very handy because you don't have to change the bulb if you decide you want to change what your scene looks like. You can just reprogram it by changing the numbers on the back. And the cool thing about these lights are you can get them in bundles of like 10 or something like that for less than $9 a piece on eBay. I don't know if I would trust putting these in my haunted house because they're very inexpensive lights that are shipped from China. Actually, these came from New Jersey, so you get them in a couple of days. But I think if I was going to do something serious, I would go out and buy some more rugged metal enclosure, brand name lights. But for learning and experimenting, it's a very inexpensive way to do it. And as you can see, I have a bunch of these lights that I use for experiments. They're a great low-cost way to get into DMX, learn how to program it, and do fancy things with it. And then later on, you can upgrade to better, more commercial quality lights. Now, if you want to do something more than just display a color or blink some patterns that might be built into the DMX light, you can hook up the lights to a computer. I have a $20 DMX interface. It's basically just a little USB controller thing that goes to a DMX cable. And by using certain software on my Mac, I can create very elaborate lighting patterns. Instead of just having the light blink at a certain rate of a certain color, I can make it simulate lightning, or the flickering of a candle, or the burning of a flame, or the pulses from an electric shock, things like that. Problem with that is you have to have a computer running your haunted house. And if your luck is like mine, at some point that computer is going to crash, and you don't want to have all your lights go haywire because the computer goes down. And that's what I want to talk to you about today as an alternative to using a computer to control DMX lights. This little tiny piece of equipment here is the DMX RT. This is a DMX record and playback device that retails for around $109. It actually has a little micro SD memory card on there and hookups where you can trigger it, so if you push a button, the DMX playback would start. And then on the other side it has an input and an output for DMX, and you can hook this up to your computer or your mixing board or whatever and have it record whatever you do or whatever the computer plays. And later on you can have this play it back without needing a computer. So instead of having to have a whole Windows machine running playing your show, you can have one of these $110 boxes doing it, and you can keep a spare on hand and a backup of the memory card, and if something happens during the night you can just swap it out. A lot easier than calling IT to get your Windows computer looked at. So for a quick demonstration, earlier I hooked up my computer and programmed in a whole bunch of different light patterns and then played them into the DMX RT so it could record them to the little micro SD card. Now all I have to do is start playing this pattern, and I'll do that by going into run mode and start pattern 0, and now my light is pulsing and putting out whatever the pattern is on that channel. Now DMX works like channels. Think of it like a television set where you tune to channel 3, you receive whatever channel 3 has on it. Your radio, you choose channel 88.9, you hear whatever they're broadcasting. This DMX cable has up to 512 channels of information going across it at the same time. This particular light needs 8 channels for all the different information. One channel is red, one channel is blue, one channel is green, one channel is white. Other channels are brightness and the different effects that are built in. Every DMX light is a little bit different, so this has to be customized specifically for the types of lights I'm using. But I am currently tuned in to the channel that pulses the red fire effect. And you'll see instead of just blinking the light, I get a pulsing red fire color. Now I've hooked up 2 more lights, so I've got a total of 3. The first light is tuned to the channel that does fire version 1, the second one does fire version 2, and the third one does fire version 3. So they're all doing slightly different versions of the same thing. The idea behind this would be if you had a room that had flickering candles or burning fire, you wouldn't want all of your fire lights to pulse at the same time. It would create a very non-realistic effect. But with these lights all flickering independently of each other, I can have 3 channels of fire in the same dungeon room or dragon chamber, and it would give a much more realistic effect. Now I've got the lights pointing at a wall here. The first 2 are on channels that read the fire effect. The third one has been changed to a channel that has an electrical short effect. So every now and then it kind of has a random pulse of bright white light. Imagine those lights in those creepy hallways in the movie, and the lights are just kind of flickering every now and then. That's kind of what that effect simulates. So maybe I have the first 2 lights tuned to channels that are going to be in rooms where there's fire going on. So both of these are tuned to channels for the fire effect. And then by simply changing the channel of this light to the one that's receiving the electrical short, now that hallway has electrical short lights. Now we've changed the pattern, so the light on the left is tuned into a channel that just kind of does a pulsing red light. I've got patterns for red and green and blue, all the basic colors. The one in the middle is a random yellow flash, so it just kind of pulses yellow flashes now and then. And on the right is a lightning storm effect that would occasionally have these kind of lightning type flashes. Imagine that behind a window or above you in a graveyard, something like that. Hopefully you're playing a soundtrack that has thunder in it. Here's 3 more patterns. We'll start over on the right. The one that just cycled there is called Nuclear Explosion, and it basically just pulses through a bunch of lights as if there's a nuclear bomb going off in the distance. Well, it's not doing it right now, but every minute or so it cycles. The one in the middle is called Starlight. It's kind of a shimmering blue. And there goes the nuclear one. Yeah, I don't know why I'd ever use that for anything. If this is pointed off the ceiling, it creates kind of the shimmering light effect at night, like clouds are passing over. It'd be great for a calm outdoor scene, you know, when you're building it inside, you have lighting control anyway. And over on the left is something special. This is an entrance light timer. Say you want to let your guest in 60 seconds apart, or 2 minutes, or 5 minutes, whatever your time is. This is a pattern, in this case 60 seconds, that would be a light at the entrance, and it tells your ticket taker when they can let in the next group. It stays red until it cycles through, and then when it's time to start letting guests in, it will change to a different color, and then it will blink a warning saying, okay, stop letting people in, we're about to reset. So it should be coming up here in about 6 seconds. Okay, so it's blinking green saying you can now start letting people in. I have it programmed to do this for about 10 seconds. And then right towards the end, we go to yellow blink saying, okay, stop. And there we go. So this is just a quick demonstration of what you can do with DMX lights and a computer or a mixing board, or in this case, a little playback module. The service that I'm going to offer is I'm going to have these little micro SD cards loaded up with dozens and dozens of different patterns. So if you want to put in DMX lights in your haunted house, and I have a pattern for your particular types of lights, you can just get one of these playback units, get the memory card from me, and just by hooking up your lights in the different rooms and turning them onto the right channel, they suddenly have those effects without you needing to have a programmer or a computer or anything like that. Just a $110 box, some DMX lights hooked together by cables and wired up in your different rooms. I'm also going to be able to do custom programming for somebody. If you have a light that I don't know how to support, I will be able to come up with a program for it. Maybe you send me the light so I can learn how it works or something like that. But the idea would be you could have complex DMX lighting in your haunted house without having to know anything about it other than how to plug in a light, hook a cable in, and change it to a different channel number. It's pretty straightforward. And these boxes can be set so they start playing when you hit a switch, or they just turn on and they just start playing and they loop all night. And something else that I like, I actually have 2 programs in here. I have a second program. I don't know if it's all set up for all these lights. I call it work lights, and it is not. Well, if I was on the right channels, it just turns all the lights on white. So if I was going in to do some cleaning of the haunted house or setting things up, I could just manually go to this box and switch to the work lights program, and then all of these would be white. But it looks like it doesn't work with these lights yet. Would have been cool if that worked. Alright, so this was just a real simple overview of what DMX is and how it can be used with and without a computer. And these days, things have gotten so cheap. I mean, this playback box, I got it from Amazon, bought all the cables from Amazon. The lights you can pick up from Amazon or eBay or, you know, pretty much any music store. And you don't even have to know anything about the computer programming side of it. You can come to somebody like me and give me a list of your lights and hire me to do one of these custom programs for you. And then all you do is hook up the lights in your haunted house, tune them to the right channel, and you're done. And then next year, when you change out one of your scenes, all you have to do is switch the channel number on the back of the lights in that scene to the effect that you want, and now your lights are fully reprogrammed. You don't even have to change a light bulb. So this is something I'm kicking around right now. I'm doing this for a couple of projects that I'm involved in. Thought I'd share it with you in case it might be of interest to you. For more information, you can contact me at dmhauntedhouses.com, find me on Facebook, send me a message, and I'll have more updates when I get on to my next project. I've got some video players and some sound players and all kinds of fun stuff that I'm working on for things later on this year. Thanks. Until next time, this is Alan.